Welcome back to some more Lord of the Rings Online. It is the season finale for Angmar, and I am pretty excited. So as always, there's several things that I'm going to be going over in this finale, mainly the deeds of Angmar, because right behind me lies Evendim, the site of Season 10, which I am very pumped up to be doing soon. So let me begin with this. Number one, I got this, my 10-year gift box for playing Lord of the Rings Online for 10 years. So let's see what's inside. Alright, I got dragon fireworks and a 10-year frame. So let me do the 10-year frame and let's go ahead and make that active. Sweet. Yes, so I missed the anniversary quest this year, mainly because a lot of them had you traveling all over Middle-earth, and I didn't want to do that just yet, but I will do the anniversary quest in a future year once I'm a bit more caught up with the content of the game. So that's that. Next up, let me talk about some of the class points. So as far as the virtues, I'm going to keep them the same. Innocence, confidence, fidelity, honor, and tolerance. And these are going to help with my mitigations and my defense and all that kind of good stuff. And then here, nothing's really going to change here. And then I do have 2 class points that I can spend. I'm going to finish this off, the deep wounds, to increase my damage over time. And then I think I'll also do this, Hone Spikes, so that I can get more damage with shield strikes. So we'll apply those. Alright, there's that. And then as far as gear, I always like to head into a season with new gear, but since I'm actually kind of downgrading, in the sense that Angmar was higher level than Evendim is, there's no need for me to craft any gear. My gear is outdated. I'm wearing level 50 gear. Obviously, I'm level 58. But I'm probably not going to upgrade again until I head into Moria. But that's enough of that. Next up, I do like to go into a new season with a new title as well, reflecting the previous season. So for this one, I got Kip and Proudfeet, Vanquisher of Thorlock. Of course, for finishing the Rift Raid and killing the Balrog. So now, let me get to the meat of this episode by talking about some of the deeds that I accomplished in Angmar. So let's go over all of these. So there's Bastion of Hope, which is to find all these different spots here. It's part of the Explorer deeds, including Circle of Despair, the Bastions of Hope that I talked about, and the Road to War. I'll show those momentarily. There's the Seven Swords deed, which I actually did in an episode by itself. So look back to the episode called The Seven Swords, and you can see this deed being completed. And then the Marching into Shadow lines are for doing quests within Angmar, which of course I did. And then finally we got the Slayer deeds, the Angmarim, the Orcs, the Trolls, the Uruks, the Wargs, the Wights, the Worms, and then there are 2 more deeds, the Roving Threats and the Treasure Caches, which I can't do until I'm at least level 90, so I'm going to have to put those off. But for now, let's go ahead and get into the deeds, so let me show you those. The first exploration deed is Bastions of Hope. Even in the blasted waste of Angmar, there remain a few small bastions of resistance and valor. They lie hidden and well defended in the hills of this dark land, lending aid to those who would take up arms against the powers of Karn Dûm. The first landmark is Lemakoti. Lemakoti is a small Earthkin village tucked within the depths of Ram Duath. The forces of Angmar have ignored it for the time being as their armies travel the eastern road through those broken valleys. Should it be discovered that this tribe of Earthkin have offered aid and sympathy to the men of the West, the hammer of Angmar would surely fall upon this place. Next is Oghair. The hillmen of Oghair are playing a dangerous game with powers of Angmar. As one of the larger and more independent tribes of hillmen in the region, they have considerable sway with their brethren in the service of Angmar. As long as they continue to convince the lords of Angmar that they may yet join them, the men of Oghair are allowed a small breath of freedom. Nevertheless, their game can only play out for so long before Angmar grows impatient and either enslaves or crushes this town as a spot of rebellion upon their flanks. Next is Tern Luig. This small camp is inhabited by a band of hunters out of Oghair, and as such harbor some sympathies for the free peoples of Eriador. Luckily for them, this camp is far too small to have come to the notice of the powers of Angmar, yet. Next is Gabelshather. The dwarf mining outpost of Gabelshather was unwisely founded shortly before the recent revival of the powers of Angmar. Now these poor souls are trapped, holding out against hope that they can survive and be rescued before the fist of Angmar falls upon them. Finally, there is Gath-Fortnir. A small band of brave souls, including a small contingent of rangers, has created a well-hidden outpost here on the very doorsteps of Carn-dûm. From here they send spies to watch the movements of the enemy's armies and offer aid to the rest of those brave and strong enough to lead the fight against the false king. The next exploration deed is the Circle of Despair. The ancient fortress of the Witch King of Angmar is rumored to be surrounded by 8 dread towers within which his lieutenants resided during the Long War with Arnor, weaving their dread magic against the forces of the West. The first landmark is Minas Call. Minas Call is the northwest tower of the Witch King's palace. Next, there is Minas Augar. Minas Augar is the western tower of the Witch King's palace. Next, there is Minas Mar. Minas Mar is the southwest tower of the Witch King's palace. Next, there is Minas Angus. Minas Angus is the southern tower of the Witch King's palace. Next, there is Minas Nur. Minas Nur is the northeast tower of the Witch King's palace. Next, there is Minas Deloth. Minas Deloth is the southeast tower of the Witch King's palace. Next, there is Minas Gularan. Minas Gularan is the eastern tower of the Witch King's palace. And finally, there is Minas Dem. Minas Dem is the northern tower of the Witch King's palace. It is rumored that the other 8 Nazgûl occasionally reside within these towers, wielding dark sorceries at the behest of the Witch King. The final exploration deed is the Road to War. There is a great road that leads through the wastes of Angmar to the very gates of Carn-dûm. It is along this road that the Dark Armies march forth and bring the free peoples of Eriador under the yoke of the enemy. The first landmark is Scathmar. The armed camp of Scathmar is responsible for patrolling the canyons of Ram Duath, ensuring that it is clear and the road well maintained so that Angmar's armies may move undisturbed through its length. Next is Baal Rova. The fortress of Baal Rova commands the exit from Ram Duath as it spills into Angmar. For the armies of Angmar, this is the last major fortress they will pass through before embarking on their campaigns to the south. Next is Baal Boglok. Baal Boglok is a major staging camp for the armies of Angmar as they gather from surrounding lands and move into the south. Even the inhabitants of this vast encampment avoid the valley to the north, however, and those who question the commands of their superiors are hurled over the cliffs there into the unsettling silence and the fog below, where their screams are soon cut short by dreadful silence. Next is Mor Modhol. This watchtower overlooks the great sulfur lake of Duvuinen to the south. From here, scouts and commanders can survey the watchfires of the gathering armies and observe their movements as they draw up their plans. Next is Beodillis. This small camp acts as a checkpoint through which travelers and messengers to Carn-dûm must pass before approaching the vast gates of the city. Finally, there is the Gate of Shadows. The Gate of Shadows is the vast outer gate of the fortress of the city of Carn-dûm. Stories abound of the horrors within, but here, far from the war, the small town settled around the gate might seem almost commonplace were it not for the symbols of Angmar's power upon every street and tower. The harsh countenance upon the faces of the guards suggests that they brook no hint of rebellion or expression from the citizenry that runs contrary to the wishes of the false king. Next, we have the Slayer deeds, beginning with the Angmarim-slayer deed, and I think the best place to do this is here in Baal Rova. There's plenty of them to go around. It's not too bad. Also of note, there are the deeds in Carn-dûm, Urgarth, Bard-Gularan, but I'm not going to be going over them in this episode. I'll do those separately in the future once I go back to complete all the deeds for the instances. I'm focusing on just the map of Angmar. The next Slayer deed is Orc-slayer, and you can do this in Carn-dûm and Urgarth. That's probably the best way to do it when you run those instances a few times. Otherwise, if you want to solo it, Dun Kovad is probably the best place to do it. As you can see, there's plenty of orcs here to go around, and plenty of archers to annoy you when you're trying to group them all up. Look at all these fat orcs. They're so chubby. Disgusting. Next up is the Troll-slayer deed, and again, it's probably easiest to run the Urgarth and Carn-dûm instances a few times to do this. There are prominent troll areas in both of those instances, and they do count towards Angmar as well. But if you want to solo it in the map of Angmar itself, you can head over here to Mathad. And there's plenty of trolls. They have a ton of HP though, so it might take you a while, unfortunately. Next up is the Uruk-slayer deed, and for the third time, I recommend you do this while running the Carn-dûm and Urgarth instances a few times. Otherwise, there's really only one good place to do this, and that would be right here, Mor Modhol. It's the name of this camp here, and there's maybe 4 or 5 Uruks around here. They do have some pretty beefy HP and slow respawn rates, so it might take you a while again if you choose not to do the instances. The next Slayer deed would be the Warg-slayer deed. And there are plenty of them in the fields of Laran. Unfortunately, they're not bunched up too nicely, but they are all over the place. There's probably like 50 of them around here. But like I said, there is a bit of distance between them, so it may seem like they're more scattered and a little bit more rare than it really is, but it's really not too bad of a deed. And as always, there are wargs in Urgarth and Carndum, so there's always that option too. All in the field. So next up, there is the Wight-slayer deed, and there is this little place here called Fervart, which has a decent amount of wights, and you can knock them out pretty quickly here. And you can bunch them up too pretty nicely as well. Of note, if you walk over here, 2 more will pop up out of the ground, so that will make things a little bit faster as well. The last Slayer deed is the Worm-slayer deed, and this one's probably the easiest because there's this area here in Melanhad that has a ton of worms. They're all pretty close together, and you'll never be running around looking for one because they're going to be popping up all over the place. And they're not too bad either, pretty low HP. You can knock it down pretty quickly. Finally, there is the reputation here in Angmar. There are 2 reputation factions. Number 1, the Council of the North, and also the Eldgang within the Rift of Nazgûl. So let me show you some of those. So we got the Council of the North here. Let me see if I can read about it. The council of several races who struggle to take the war into the heart of Angmar itself. They strike from the hidden refuge of Gath-Fortnir in the far northern wastes of Angmar. And again, you can get reputation with them by doing several things. You can do quests, you can do deeds, and then you got some of the reputation items that you can use. And let me show you everything that you can unlock with that council. So there's really nothing too exciting with them. They're here in Gath-Fortnir, and there's 3 people you can talk to. You can talk to this guy. He basically gives you some recipes that will allow you to craft things to increase your reputation if you need to do that. There's this guy, and really he's just one of these craft tradesmen. He doesn't really give you anything as far as rewards. The one that you're interested in is this guy right here. And again, he doesn't give you too many cool rewards. There's some random weapons here, some jewelry. They're really not too good, honestly. There's this helmet here. It looks kind of cool, I guess. I don't know. Really what you're after, though, is going to be these ponies. The prized Angmar's Free People Steed and the prized Ashen Steed. We'll buy both of those and show you momentarily. Otherwise, nothing else here to see. So that's that. Alright, that is the Council of the North. Next, there is the Eldgang reputation faction. Long have the Eldgang dwelt in the Rift of Nazgûl, ever in the shadow of an imprisoned evil. Now they face threats from all sides. The chains of Tharlok are loosening, the Everseer and his nameless horde gather, and fire orcs in the service of Mordor seek tools of darkness to use in Sauron's war against the free peoples of Middle-earth. Now this, you can do some repeatable quests within the Rift. You can also kill enemies within the Rift. It's a pretty tricky one to get kindred with, and I'm going to have to put that one off until I'm max level and can kind of farm the rift on my own. So I can't get kindred with that just yet. But let me go ahead and show you some of the ponies from the Council of the North. Let's go here to the mounts. Here is the prized Ashen pony. Not a big fan of it. It's kind of ugly, actually. Kind of boring looking. And then there is the prized Angmar's Free People's pony, which is not the best, but that's what I'm going to be using here in the next season. It's pretty cool. It's kind of armored out. I enjoy it. It's not so bad. So that's it. That is the end of the season. Let's set off some fireworks. This is the anniversary dragon firework, which should be pretty cool. Kind of like the dragon firework from the beginning of the Fellowship of the Ring movie, where Merry and Pippin kind of go off and set that off on their own without the permission of Gandalf. Where did it go? I completely missed it. I missed that firework completely. I'm going to have to set it off again. I'm going to try to look as to where it launches. There we go. It's behind a tree. I can't really see it. There we go. There's the dragon. Nice. Pretty cool firework. And here we go. Into Evendim. You know why I'm excited about this season? I'm excited about this season because look at all these quests that are all from Evendim that I've been hoarding into for a long time. All of these I'll be able to finally finish in Evendim. Finally, all of these. So, you know what? Let's head into it. Thank you so much for the continued support in this series. It seems to grow bigger with every season, so I appreciate all you guys who leave a like on the videos and follow it. And I appreciate you for joining me in Angmar, but now it's back to some rolling green hills, beautiful rivers. Evendim is certainly one of the most aesthetically pleasing maps, and I'll see you on the next episode for a brand new season.
See